Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the very rarely talked about and very underrated Plus 44 album, When Your Heart Stops Beating. Plus 44 only lasted about 4 years, and actually the band stopped performing only about 9 months after this album came out. A very short-lived project started by Mark Hoppus and Travis Barker after Blink-182 went on indefinite hiatus. They had Shane Gallagher on guitar coming on board when Mark invited him to play on some early demos, and Craig Fairbaugh also joined a little later down the line. The band took a slightly more angsty approach to their songwriting, drawing a lot of inspiration from the breakup of Blink-182 to other aspects happening in Mark Hoppus's personal life, and I think this is some of his best and most original songwriting work. I am not the first person to say that either, as the band did well with the critics and other journalists have heavily praised this band. I also did enjoy Tom Delonge's band Angels and Airwaves, and still listen to them, but I preferred Plus 44 as the punk rock tone mixed with some heavier, more creative songwriting was just way more interesting and exciting to me than Angels and Airwaves' ambient rock. Plus 44 also seemed true to their roots and were touring relentlessly with other punk rock bands, as well as modern pop punk bands such as the Honda Civic Tour. This touring kind of made the whole feel of the project feel like a very natural extension of Blink-182, which is why I think so many fans were pleased with the outcome. Before the addition of Craig and Shane, during recording of early demos at Travis's house and Mark's house, Travis's friend Carol Heller also became a member, originally playing guitar and vocals. You can hear her vocals most notably on the song No It Isn't, which was on the album as one of the final tracks, but also happened to be their first song released/leaked. Yes, it leaked in 2005. And remember that this was before MySpace had even began kicking off, and YouTube was basically just being invented, so this song going viral was no small feat. We were sharing this song via things like MSN Messenger and LimeWire. Who's old enough to remember those things, right? And even though it's a really great stripped back, clean guitar with vocals and keyboards, the absolute heavy drum ending with amazing vocal harmonies really set the tone for what the band would go on to do. I think the most admirable thing about this band and this album was that there didn't need to be a band or an album. It really is a testament to Mark and Travis's friendship and their working relationship, as Travis has always been so loyal to Mark and they've always seen eye to eye creatively, which just makes this underrated album so much more special. Remember that Travis was already busy AF and was in a financial situation where he could have just coasted effortlessly. I have no doubt that he was also under a fair bit of stress during this time, which makes it even more impressive. Remember that he had just started a family and had a reality TV show which was airing only 2 months after Blink-182's split. If you listen to interviews with reality TV shows, then you know that these things can put the stars under a lot of stress. For example, Ryan Sheckler recently commented on Steve-O's Wild Ride podcast that one time he had to break up with a girl twice, as the crew said they didn't get the shot right the first time. It also led to a conflict with his family. So again, the fact that Travis was doing this album whilst also doing reality TV, starting a family, touring, still playing a little bit with the band The Transplants as well, is ballsy, but we all know that this guy really loves working. We see a reflection of that currently where he's collaborating with Machine Gun Kelly, Willow Smith, Youngblood, and sure, there might have been record label contractual obligations here that required Mark and Travis to produce this album, because sometimes you are contracted to produce X amount of albums, and maybe also MTV wanted Travis's show to involve behind the scenes music industry footage, so it made sense that he would be in a band. But I really don't think that the artist would have not only started this project, but also poured so much creativity, excitement, and rawness into the music without having a true drive behind it. If you watch some footage from the recording sessions, which also had long-term Blink-182/Boxcar Racer collaborator Jerry Finn producing along with them, you'll see that it actually looks like a very positive environment. Everyone wanted to be there, no one was butting heads, everyone had something good to bring to the table, which seems different to the previous few years of Blink-182. The band also had to take a step down financially, I'm sure as well, considering that Blink-182 was a big headline arena band, whilst Plus 44 were more of a theatre or club band, and they did a lot of support slots, for example supporting Fall Out Boy on a tour. Their tour schedule was incredibly vast and very busy, going to cities like Tokyo, Amsterdam, Adelaide, Southampton, Vienna. Can you imagine all that jet lag? It goes to show that sometimes the grind never stops. I can imagine if this project didn't come forward, then Mark would have started something else entirely, or maybe embarked on a solo career. Maybe he would have just done something similar to Simple Creatures with just one other musician, or collaborated with a bunch of other musicians such as Jim Adkins, Matt Skiba, John Feldman, who knows? But I can totally imagine him making music regardless, as Mark has a natural talent and natural ability to write catchy songs that often feel true and authentic. You can see this in his recent Twitch streams, and you can also see Travis Barker's workaholic desire to always be working. So it was natural that this project would come underway, and very respectful. So let's look at a few highlights of this album. So we've already mentioned No It Isn't, the first song they released, and let's go back to track 1, which was also a single release, which was Lyanthrope. I really hope I pronounced that correctly. This is actually my favorite song on the whole album. It's got such a great feel to it. It's fast, it's abrupt, but it's also 4 minutes long, which for a punk rock song is actually quite long when you think about it. The chorus is really catchy. It's got a great hook. It's a very original chord progression for Blink-182. It's different from the standard C, G, A, F, or perhaps F sharp, C sharp, E, B, something like that. And it's got a really, really great middle eighth as well. Travis's influence on this album is fantastic. I really think that it's when some more originality came into their work, and I really appreciate that, which leads straight into Baby Come On. Now, this kind of reminds me of a mix between Stay Together for the Kids and Adam's Song. The benefit of Plus 44, though, was that there were dual guitars, and there was also the addition of more synthesizers and keyboards. Now, Baby Come On, I would say, even though it wasn't their biggest song, it was certainly the biggest on the MySpace circuits, which by 2006 was in full effect. This was peak and prime MySpace time, and a lot of people had Baby Come On as their MySpace profile song, or they had the acoustic version as well. There was an acoustic version of this. Track 3, When Your Heart Stops Beating, obviously same title as the album, and the lead single from this was the one which actually had the high budget music video attached to it. The other ones had music videos too, but some of them used live footage, whereas When Your Heart Stops Beating was a high budget full production music video. And this band really did have all the promotional campaigns they possibly could. They made so many live appearances on shows like David Letterman. I think they did like AOL sessions, MTV sessions playing this song, and also playing Lyanthrope. It was really, really, really amazing how much money the record label was putting into promoting this album. Also 155 as well. That was it wasn't really a lead single, or not really many people really heard of it or paid attention to it, but that also was a very, very popular song to be played live. Aside from that, the only other thing I really want to mention is the interlude at track 8, because this was very original for any band to be doing at the time. And, you know, interludes are here and there, pretty rare, or sometimes a band might put a 45-second song in the middle of the album. I know that Blink did this a few times, and The Offspring have done this plenty of times, but if you actually listen to this, it's really, really cool what they did with it. It almost sounds like elevator music or something. But again, Travis's influence plus the influence of Craig, I want to say that as well. It just brought something new to the table that you didn't get with Boxcar Racer, you didn't get with Angels and Airwaves, you didn't get with Blink-182, you didn't really get with any punk rock band or emo adjacent band. It all just really, really made sense. And did you know that there were actually several songs which didn't make the cut on this album? Would be amazing if some of them could get leaked or released, or they got a bit more attention, because like I said, I really do think that it is underrated in total. This album didn't get released until about 1.5 years after the band had formed. They formed a few months very quietly after the hiatus of Blink-182. Even though a bunch of songs had been released via things like MySpace, and promotional campaigns had been released, and the album did quite well, Plus 44 played their final show only around 9 months after the album was released. It was released in November 2006, and their final appearance would be July 2007. Blink-182 then got back together about 1.5 years later, and the project was laid to rest. Very unpredictable and turbulent times for the band, but everything obviously did work out in the end. I want to say that I don't think this album performed probably as financially or as well as they expected it to, and that's just my opinion, that's just my speculation, but it did get positive reviews from critics, and I think the only reason that it probably didn't get as much hype as it should have is because so many songs had already been leaked and were already circulating so much on social media websites such as MySpace and probably YouTube as well by 2007 that no one really cared that much when it did get released. There was no reason as to why they didn't tour after 2007 because they didn't really officially break up or stop playing as a band until Blink-182 got back together officially in early 2009, nearly a year and a half afterwards. 2007 dates which they did have booked were postponed and there was no real reason. Apparently it was to record a second studio album. There's never really anything been said about that. Mark Hoppus spoke to Alternative Press and said, "I don't consider it done. We'll never say never with anything. Shane and Craig are awesome guitarists and great fun to play in a band with, so we definitely won't say that the band is done. But obviously for the foreseeable future, all of our energy is going into Blink-182. I obviously, with everything that's happened recently with Mark and Travis, also don't see this coming into fruition anytime soon. You know what? We still got that one album. It's really great. I still listen to it. It's awesome. And I think it holds a special place in our hearts, very similar to the Boxcar Racer album, because every time I mention Boxcar Racer on this channel, it gets a lot of hype and a lot of attention as well. Guys, thanks so much for watching. If you could please subscribe to help the channel out, that would be really awesome of you. It'd be the most helpful thing you can do. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.